This is the story of a solar-powered house, something that took us about a year and a half to build. And many of these stars of this attraction are here with you tonight. So the question for you to decide, is this meaningful or just weird? Well, this is your brain on rock and roll, or whatever you were doing when you were enjoying rock and roll. And this is your planet on carbon. And welcome to the colorful guide to an uncertain future. That's Mr. Hellboy. Of course, it's all done with carbon. We did this to ourselves. Wendy gave a really brilliant introduction to that. We did it with the stuff that we dredged up and burned over the last 200 years. Millions of years of carbon formation, 200 years of burning, yielding stuff like this. Rising ocean levels, weird weather, droughts, acidification of the ocean, hunger, and in general, a witch's brew of stuff that we really can't anticipate, but there's no reason to think that we would enjoy it and it would be better than the wonderful life we have now. So I was a real pain in the ass on city council talking about these issues. And so I thought, well, I got to do something physical. I got to build something that expresses these ideas in concrete form. So this is the best place to do it because in Springfield, in case you didn't know, we have the most unusual weather in North America. More variation in temperature and humidity and wind than anybody else. So this is the setting for the house. This is my folks' house. Mike and my brother, we built this about 30 years ago. And my house is up in here. See, it kind of disappears. The trees are our friends for cooling because really it's a warming world. And so I wanted to make sure that we had trees to block the sunlight so the house wouldn't get too warm. And at the other end of the lake is this beautiful cascading waterfall of water which spills into the Sauk River. And of course, the Sauk River flows to the Stockton Lake, and so that's the source of our drinking water. And where did this come from? It came from any place where people dumped water on the ground. Faults, sinkholes, and whatever. So whatever you put on the ground is going to end up in your drinking water. The scope of the project is this. There's a barn here, and right next to it is the house. The barn is the power supply. 39 photovoltaic panels providing about 11 kW of electricity to the house, which is over here. And here's the key. Net zero. At the end of the year, I want to be generating the same amount of energy that I'm consuming. And everybody in this room could be doing the same thing. And here's the key. The walls are built like an Oreo cookie. There's foam in between, and there's concrete on each side, and then there's tubes that convey heating elements, water, through the course of both sides of the concrete. And that's another view of it. Here's the little heat pump that's solar powered that raises the temperature to comfort. So why does this sound familiar? Because each and every one of you here tonight are doing exactly the same thing. You're respirating and you're using your network of veins and arteries to move heat from your core to your exterior or vice versa, depending on whether or not you're comfortable. And this is what the system looks like if you removed all the concrete from my walls. The very same idea. So, look, we've done this to ourselves. We've caused weirder weather. Look at Joplin. And this is what the house is designed to be to resist that. It's got steel roof. It's got a concrete on top of the steel, oversized foundation. It's got a concrete floor. It's got steel cables in the walls. And all of the walls are built with steel and welded together. And this is how it was done. It was done in Springfield, Missouri, in a factory. They built these huge forms, 10 foot wide, 37 feet long. And they put these tubes in it, 2 miles of tubing for the heat exchange. And then they poured concrete on top of the tubes on a cold winter day. So it's built just like a very complicated sandwich. And here you see the openings for the doors and the windows. So all of the wall sections went up in a day and a half. They're 10 foot wide and they're 10 inches thick and they're 37.5 feet tall. And so when they're all assembled together, you see it looks 10 inches seems like a lot, but it's kind of a spindly structure standing up like it is. And if you had X-ray eyes, you were looking through the outside, you'd see something like this. So it's not a big house. It's 20 by 40. And on 3 floors, that's 2,400 square feet. And that's the average size of a house built in the United States. So you see some features, a mechanical room where the heat pump is, living space, bedrooms, and the sort of stuff that you find typically in any sort of house. If you're a big buzzard flying on top, you'd see something like this. This is the house itself, 20 by 40. There's the carport, no garage. And all these other spaces are permeable. So this is a growing area. This is a rainwater garden. The only area that's impermeable, that does not absorb or use the water that falls on it, is this tiny little steppy area here. Because if it falls on a roof and it falls off, the rain is somebody else's problem. But in my case, it's my problem, my opportunity. So this is what we do with the septic system so that I can protect your drinking water supply. It looks like this, 1,000-gallon tank, 1,500-gallon tank, a very elaborate filter system, and then 400-foot laterals for me and my wife. Why? Because we care. There's some interesting stuff in the house, like a spiral staircase that lets the air rise, like Thomas Jefferson, that was his idea, lets the humid air fall. And this is something you're going to see a lot more of. This is a rainwater tank. As we go through a drought, as things get drier and hotter, you'll see what your grandparents had. Your grandparents had rainwater tanks, and that's what we have. Here's some other interesting stuff. The plans called for concrete retaining walls, and we said, let's make retaining walls out of bags of dirt. And so when you plant seeds in them, it grows. And this is daylighting. So every room in the house has some element of daylighting so that we don't have to burn electricity to provide illumination during the day. There are other interesting things you might find in this house, like cork floors, which are a renewable resource. They're used in libraries. They're very tough. At the same time, they absorb sound, which in a concrete house is a big priority. And this is the art, because this expresses the fact that I've been there for less than a year building this thing, but the natives were there for 10,000 years. And so I'm trying to honor them. So look, where does this leave us and all of you people here? 100,000 energy obsolete buildings in Springfield, Missouri, and virtually every city in the United States. A wonderful opportunity to express ourselves in the face of climate change. All of us could do little things or big things to make ourselves more energy efficient. And anyway, this is the architects, Jennifer Wilson, Travis Tyndall. Todd Johnson was the builder. Justin Frazee was his assistant. There's my brother Mike. There's my nephew Will, and there's my son David. So it was a tag team of people that built this. And if you guys are on this slide, would you stand up? Thank you. Yay.
Don't be deceived. There's more than 4 Chiles in this room. Thank you, Dan. All right. Our next presenter is a self-described fiend fabricator and master monster mind. He is an artist, among many other things. He's the